In today's Leeds news, Marathe Rangers move agreed. New rule to penalise keepers' time wasting. Christensen deal agreed. Mowbray advice for promotion chasing Leeds, under 21s and youth results. And James leading the pack. Morning folks, Jay here at The View with your news on Tuesday morning, the 4th of March. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a good week so far. There's a little bit of stuff to get stuck into. A lot of news came out last night about the Rangers stuff. We'll get stuck into that. And we'll have a podcast out tomorrow night looking ahead to the weekend and talking about the news of this week. And then we'll have the preview out later on in the week. We'll crack on. We'll get stuck into this. And we'll start, I suppose, with the bigger story that came out yesterday. And that's the Marathe Glasgow Rangers story. According to Sky Sports, a US investor supported by Leeds United chairman Marathe have moved a step closer to taking the majority ownership of Glasgow Rangers. Sky claim discussions have been ongoing since October between the consortium and Rangers, and there is a growing confidence that a deal will be completed before the start of the 25-26 season. The report also states that the prospective owners are now entering a period of exclusivity and due diligence while legal paperwork is being drafted up for the deal. American health tycoon Andrew Kavanagh, and chairman of Pareto Health, is said to be leading the takeover with support from Leeds United chairman Marathe in an effort to buy a 51% stake, the controlling of the Scottish Giants. When Marathe was asked last week about the possibility of a multi-club model involving Leeds and Glasgow Rangers, Marathe said that the clubs would stand alone, and his exact words were as follows: "Multi-club from the standpoint of a hierarchy of clubs that maybe some other folks do, that's not really how we look at it. Leeds United stands alone, and if we were to look or pursue another club, that club would stand alone. We haven't contemplated as one club is a feeder club for another. Each club deserves our attention and efforts." Again, yesterday, 49ers Enterprises were only mentioned as the employer of Marathe and not mentioned by the main sources on this as being involved in the takeover themselves. The 49ers have been mentioned in the aggregate sites who are claiming the 49ers Enterprises are making this deal. So there's still a little bit of gap in the information that's coming out. Are the 49ers Enterprises the ones behind supporting Andrew Kavanagh and Pareto Health, or is it Marathe supporting Andrew Kavanagh? That hasn't been made 100% clear just yet. As I say, the language being used says Pareto Health, Andrew Kavanagh, supported by Marathe. We'll have to see and get more information on that as that deal starts to find its way into the public media and the exclusivity period drops and some information starts coming out. Then we'll get more detail on that. But the language of it for me right now is an interesting piece to keep an eye on. So we will, and we'll let you know when that changes. Moving on to a rule change for next season, and from next season a new rule will be introduced regardless of the division that will introduce a limit to the amount of time a goalkeeper can hold onto the ball before being penalised. I know what you're thinking. Doesn't that rule already exist? It does. The current rule states that the goalkeeper can hold the ball in his hands before releasing it for up to 6 seconds before an indirect free kick is given in the penalty area. The rule has not been enforced for a very, very long time, but does still exist in the rule book. So now apparently it needs to be reintroduced with a reduction in the penalty and an extension of the time. If a keeper holds the ball next season on, he will be allowed to have the ball for 8 seconds in his hands. Should it go beyond 8 seconds, a corner kick will be given to the opposing side. This is all said to be due to a clampdown on how long it takes for a goalkeeper to release the ball after consistent and increasing criticism of time wasting from goalkeepers, and also being forced due to frustrations about the existing rules not being enforced and becoming what they're referring to as a ghost rule with no enforcement despite increased breaches in the rule. But to make it easier for the goalkeepers next season as well, the referee will now also give the goalkeeper a 5-second warning before he has to release the ball before then awarding the corner kick. The new rule has been tested in the Under-21s Premier League 2 and has been deemed to be a success and will be rolled out for the Club World Cup this summer. Or they could just enforce the existing rule, which is 6 seconds before an indirect free kick is given. So the clampdown on time wasting and a rule that already exists that isn't being enforced, the decision has been made to extend the level of time the keeper can hold the ball and award a corner, so the penalty is not as severe and the time that he has the ball has increased. So for me, I don't know, an unnecessary rule change. It just seems easier to just enforce the rule that's already there. Anyway, let's move on and talk about some, I suppose, good news this morning that came out, and the time of the Dane at Leeds United is nearing its exit, and news came out yesterday of a permanent exit of Rasmus Christensen from Leeds United to Eintracht Frankfurt. Sky Germany's journalist Florian Plettenberg reported yesterday evening that Eintracht Frankfurt have agreed a deal with Leeds United for the permanent signing of Rasmus Christensen that will kick in from the start of next season. Plettenberg gave details of the agreement, which initially the original agreement was a loan with a €10 million option to buy, and that has now changed. Plettenberg states that the clubs have negotiated a haircut on that price, as Eintracht Frankfurt said that they would attempt to do, and the new fee is €6 million up front that could rise to €8 million depending on add-ons. The 27-year-old fullback will sign a deal at Eintracht Frankfurt until the summer of 2029. Leeds brought Rasmus Christensen in for £11 million and will recoup £6 million of that. Depending on the payment structure, Leeds still might come out of this with a profit, or at least as it's being worded, an accounting profit from a PSR perspective. If Leeds have paid off more than half of that £11 million already, this £6 million coming in would see Leeds, technically from an accounting perspective, make a profit and have some revenue from this sale. Also, worth adding to that, the Leeds' desire to get the player off their wage bill and also just get a bit of a headache off the books, full stop. So either way, this will end the Dane's time at Leeds United, and he will then play permanently at Eintracht Frankfurt from next season. Moving on, let's talk about some advice given to Leeds United by West Brom manager Tony Mowbray. And we all know that the gap between the top of the Championship and the bottom of the Premier League is growing increasingly larger season on season. Leicester, Southampton and Ipswich last season proved that they were the best sides in this division to get out of it, and all three are likely to come back down to the Championship in a bit of a whimper. The year before that, it was Burnley, Sheffield United and Luton who got promoted, and all three sides came straight back down this year. So if Leeds are to get there, a lot of work would be needed in the summer to stay there, and West Brom Tony Mowbray has basically told Leeds United to spend or be relegated by February. After the weekend's game, Mowbray was speaking to the press, and despite the draw with Leeds United, he still believes that Leeds United will go up in the automatic spots, and had some advice for the Whites, saying the following: Leeds are very, very good. I'm sure in my mind that they're going up. I think for this football club, it's about what they do in the summer. I had a chat with Daniel. How much are they going to spend? How are they going to survive? Southampton and Leicester were amazing last year in this league, and they can't win a game this year. So is that going to be Leeds next season? There's always this thing in the back of your mind. What are they going to do in the summer? Are Leeds going to spend 200 million just to give themselves a chance? Or are they going to go with what they have in this team and probably get relegated by February? I don't know the answer. I wouldn't take Tony Mowbray's comments about being relegated by February with what we currently have as any kind of disrespect. I think the point that he's making, if you look at Leeds against Sheffield United and Sunderland, even though we won those games, there were large periods of both those matches where Leeds looked like they could lose those games. And if Leeds are to be successful against higher calibre opposition next season, that can't be the case. So I think everyone knows that whatever happens in the summer, Leeds have a good squad right now and a good young squad and can make up the base of the entire squad, but Leeds will need to add some significant quality to that side if they have any chance of a more comfortable season in the Premier League than the likes of Sheffield United had 2 years ago, and the likes of Southampton, Leicester and Ipswich are having this season. Let's move on. Let's talk about some underage results. And the under-21s were in action last night, and a last gasp goal gave Leeds United a 1-1 draw as they came from behind to steal a point, with some standout performers also named in the game. A 95th minute James De Boyo got Leeds the draw against West Brom, and Sam Chambers, Harry Gray and goalkeeper Rory Mahady were all called out for praise in their performances for that game. But good to see James De Boyo playing and getting a goal as well. Been involved very heavily on the bench for Leeds United this season without getting a huge amount of game time, so always nice to see that. Moving on, under-18s came out on top against Liverpool, winning 3-1 away from home. Goals in that game came from Callum Mills, Freddie Lane and Harvey Vincent to give the Leeds United youth side all 3 points in the Premier League North. And then moving on to the final story of the day, Daniel James is finally getting some flowers and a little bit of praise in the media, and he's having another standout campaign, and year on year appears to be going from strength to strength. Dan James was chased aggressively by Marcelo Bielsa after missing out on him during his first season at Leeds United, but he did eventually get his man, and although circumstances in the Premier League campaigns for Leeds meant we didn't see the best of him, we're starting to see now what Marcelo Bielsa saw in the Welsh wideman when he chased him to bring him into Leeds. Leeds United are the league's top goal scorers by a significant margin this season, scoring 72 goals in 35 games. That's 16 more than the nearest goal-scoring rival Norwich, who sit in 11th place, and 22 more goals than second place Sheffield United. And Dan James has been heavily involved in a lot of what Leeds have done this season. James has 19 goal involvements so far this season, 10 goals and 9 assists in 24 starts, and already has 2 assists more than he clocked up in his entire campaign last season, and is only 3 goals off his entire goal tally for last year as well. But since the turn of the year, Dan James has stood out even more, and sharing on X, Johnny Cooper pointed out that Daniel James has the most assists of any player in England's top 4 tiers since the 2025 calendar year began, clocking up 6 assists and sitting him ahead of all of the Premier League hotshots and everyone else in the top 4 tiers. And as the calendar year has turned, Dan James appears to be coming into his peak form at just the right time for Leeds United. Dan James is overdue praise, full stop, from everyone across the board, and we're finally starting to see the performances and the output and the end product from Daniel James at Leeds United, and he has been a phenomenal player, works hard for the team, always puts the team first, never complains or moans. It's excellent to see what he's doing at Leeds United and finally getting the praise that he duly deserves. Folks, that'll be it for me today. Massive thank you, as always, for supporting the channel. We will be back tomorrow morning for the Leeds news, and then again tomorrow evening for a podcast. You can check that out. The news might be out slightly earlier tomorrow morning, so keep an eye out for that, and I'll update you down the podcast on anything we miss in the morning. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you soon. See you then. Bye.